Welcome to the Billion Insight Podcast. I'm your host Shree, and today we have an exciting episode for you. Our guest is Paula Rose Castronova, a Sustainable Development Growth Director and speaker who focuses on encouraging innovative approaches to sustainability. She brings a wealth of experience from around the world, using her expertise to drive impactful changes in businesses and communities alike. Her holistic approach addresses the interconnected social, environmental, and economic aspect of sustainability, making her a true leader in this field. In this episode, Paula will share her insights on how businesses can navigate sustainability challenges and practical tips for individuals wanting to make a difference. So without further ado, let's welcome Paula Rose Castronova to the show. So welcome, ma'am. Welcome to the Billion Insight Podcast. How are you?
Thank you, Shree. Thank you for having me. I'm very good.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on our show. So, ma'am, can we start from the beginning? Let's start with your childhood. You were born and raised in Australia, right?
No, actually I wasn't. I actually come from a creative world. I was born in Southern California, Los Angeles, USA, and I was raised in Sydney, Australia. But I learned to traverse many cultures. I started as an artist at 7, doing pastels, and then living and working as I grew up in different parts of the world. My family did travel around quite a lot. Then I did study tourism and food cultures, and that brought me a sense of individuality and inclusion with my life, to understand that we can keep our countries and origins, yet work as a whole, for the planet's health and wellness. And that's really what, brought me to that, seeing what was happening with the different countries, but understanding that the planet's resources were dwindling, and I really wanted to make a difference.
That's very interesting. So you were born in America, and in which age you moved to Sydney?
I was about 10 years old. So my mother's Australian and my father is American.
That's interesting. So, ma'am, if I'm not mistaken, you are in your early 40s?
I'm in my 40s.
Yeah. So you grew up in 80s, 90s America?
Yes.
Your formative years?
Well, no. In the 80s, 90s Australia, which was far more, I think, even more... Australia's great. It's very egalitarian, and I think it's more forward trends. They're not as conservative. Let's put it that way. Even in California, which isn't that conservative, going back and forth after that, sort of using my talents in the media. There's different. Even though we speak English, there's very different cultural ideas there.
So if you had to pick one country for live rest of your life, which one you would like to pick?
None. I love all countries. I guess that's why I love doing, food as I did Le Cordon Bleu, sort of a high honors degree. I really loved international cultures. I love traveling. I love the culture that I see when I go to different countries and experience the communities and what they're like. So there are good and bad aspects to every country, I would say. During climate change, if we're, going to have catastrophic events, I think I'd prefer Australia. It's an island. There's not that many people here, and we grow enough food to support our communities. So, we could probably live quite sustainably, if we weren't hit by too many, natural disasters. Yeah.
Can you draw a picture? How was Australia in 90s?
How was Australia in the 90s? In the 90s, I traveled all around the world because we were in media and we were shooting ads all over the world. So I kind of, lived 6 months in the UK or in Spain and came back here. So Australia was very open-minded, I guess, because we are from the bottom of the world. We really like to travel and to learn and to develop different ways. I think maybe in the 90s it was more English, and now I find it to be far more American in its political sense and in its culture. It's engaging, and the internet brought all these kind of great things, as I'm sure it did to India, that we weren't all in our silos as countries, and really got to have those influences, that drove change. So it was great to grow up here in the 90s. I can't complain. It was really, a nice place to be.
Interesting. Coming to you. Your profession. So you are a Sustainable Development Growth Director. So can you tell us what does that mean and what's your key responsibility?
Yeah, sure. I am a Sustainable Development Growth Director. For me, I believe I play a pivotal role in guiding an organization to achieve its sustainability goals. My position involves a blend of strategic planning, project management, and stakeholder engagement, all aiming to foster sustainable growth. I would say my key responsibilities include developing and implementing sustainability strategies that align with organizational mission and values. And this often involves conducting comprehensive assessments to identify areas for improvement and setting ambitious yet achievable targets. I also try to prioritize understanding global sustainability trends to keep an understanding of regulatory changes that ensure that companies are compliant, and I try to leverage new opportunities for innovation, which is very important. I build a culture of sustainability within the organization, and I like to engage and educate employees at all levels. And this fosters a shared commitment for sustainable practices. Another thing in the Sustainable Development Growth Director's role that I hold is that I often serve for the spokesperson for the organization, sustainability initiatives. And that means communicating successes and challenges and to both internally and external audiences, and crafting, that compelling narrative that highlight the organization's commitment to sustainability and inspire others, to take similar actions. I guess, to sum that up, the vision is to integrate sustainability into the core operations of any organization or the broader community, and then we can drive long-term growth that benefits all of our stakeholders.
Interesting. Can you describe what a typical day usually looks for you?
Well, that depends. It depends on who I'm working with, and what I'm doing. So that's sort of, I guess that's, sort of hard to complain. I don't have a typical day. Sorry to explain. I don't have a typical day. It might involve having numerous meetings, sort of really understanding, anyone. I could have a meeting with certain sections in a company, or I could be talking to the board, like what their concerns are, where they're going. It's more, be organizational, or they could want me to put a PowerPoint together, or they could want me to put an education program together. Sustainability is all encompassing. So there wouldn't be, it's not a 9-to-5 thing. It's whatever, I'll do anything I can do, to help move the planet's health and well-being forward, whatever that entails, and however they need it. But I'm often thought of as a thought leader. So I've been brought in to, strategically analyze, where companies fall down. So it's very much more on that level rather than, they have their sustainability teams and organizations that do, could tell you what a normal day would look like to them. But for me, it's more of the overview of what needs to be done and the trends and what's happening, I can deep dive if in one company, let's say, I try to stay away from the regulatory problems because the scope ESGs are so hard to define, and they're so nuanced to each sector and then each company. So, to be able to, tailor a program is not necessarily what I do now, but that I could be doing that in the future because things happen, like that. Somebody could ask you, say, oh, well, you did this and you did that. Could you tailor it for our whole organization? So it's evolving, it's organic, it's multidisciplinary, it's multi-directional, it's whatever we can do to, as I said, to help mitigate climate change.
That's interesting. If you don't mind, I have some rudimentary question about your profession. Can you explain what is sustainability and why it's so important for today's world?
Yeah, sure. I would love to. I believe sustainability is of critical concern for individuals, communities, and nations across the globe. The importance of adopting sustainable practices cannot be overstated because it encompasses the environmental, economic, and social well-being of our planet. Some of the reasons sustainability is an urgent priority in today's world, and there are quite a few because sustainability encompasses everything that we do in our lives and in our work. Our environmental protection, climate change mitigation, resource management, economic benefits, enhancing competitiveness, risk management, social well-being, and empowering communities. So, Shree, if you'd like me to break down any of those, I can, explain in more detail.
Yeah, I want you to explain what is climate change.
Climate change is Anthropocene, human-made climate change. So basically, there's too much methane and CO2 in the atmosphere, which is causing our climate to become overheated accelerated at a faster rate. I don't think anyone can define climate change, but scientists can see the results of a warming planet. And that you'd have to, ask a scientist, on the show to really explain that. But basically with climate change and sustainability, it's about adapting and mitigating it. And it is fossil fuel based. And, we will have a much cleaner, healthier, more balanced world if we can, support ourselves without the use of fossil fuels.
Interesting. So, ma'am, your main task is to deal with the business and let them know about the criteria about the climate change and all. So, what does it mean for business to be sustainable in practical terms?
Well, for a business to be sustainable in practical terms, then it must incorporate sustainability practices into its core operations and decisions. Its first, resource efficiency, which optimizing resources used to minimize waste and reduce environmental impact through energy efficient technologies and sustainable sourcing. So that's one thing they can do. Then they could use sustainable supply chains that ensure suppliers adhere to ethical and environmental standards. And that would be assessing product lifestyle impacts and promoting renewable resources. There's also employee engagement and well-being. And that would provide a safe working conditions, that would provide fair wages and growth opportunities, engage employees in sustainable initiatives. Another thing that I try to promote is community and stakeholder engagement. And this builds strong relationships with local communities and, supporting local initiatives and maintaining transparent communication. There's also governance and accountability. And that sets clear sustainability goals, and it monitors the progress and being accountable to stakeholders. And I think lastly, this is something I am quite interested in as a previous creative, the innovation and adaptation, which is something we do need if we're going to transform the whole world, away from fossil fuel use and into a renewable future. And that is changing conditions, and that's by investing in research and development, and embracing these new business models. And if we follow these, best practices, then businesses can enhance competitiveness and resilience and contribute to a new sustainable world.
So, ma'am, you mentioned the businesses adapting this method. That's interesting. So, coming to individuals, how an individual action can contribute to the global sustainability efforts.
I do think a lot about individuals and how they can contribute. In fact, the book that I have is really about that. It's very much about academia meets mass media and how individuals, can support sustainability and how much power, we as people have in making our future our own. And I think that individual actions play a crucial role in shaping global sustainability efforts by contributing to significant environmental, social, and economic impacts. Personal choices and behaviors, I think they will drive demand for sustainable products, and they influence corporate practices and inspire broad change across sectors. There are a few ways that we as individuals can contribute. The first would be I would put up as conscientious consumption. And, we can choose products that are environmentally friendly, ethically produced, and sustainably sourced, which helps reduce waste and environmental degradation. Our energy conservation is simple action, like energy efficient appliances, reducing our water usage, I'm sure you've heard about, supporting renewable energy resources, and this can significantly lower carbon footprints. Waste reduction is a huge problem, and that reduction, which can happen, if we concentrate on recycling, composting, and minimizing single-use plastics, which can, help to reduce all our landfill waste and pollution, which, as water pollution is with plastics is incredibly at the forefront of what scientists are the most concerned about with the warming of the oceans at this point in time. On sustainable transport, I don't know about India, but, and in Australia, we do have, quite a lot of infrastructure in that respect, but I think everyone and everywhere globally can improve, and that's opting for public transportation, cycling, walking, electric vehicles. This all reduces our greenhouse gas emissions and the reliance, on fossil fuels. And I would think fifth, it's about advocacy and awareness. So, if you support your local policies and practices that promote sustainability, and participate within your own community on any initiatives that they're driving for change, and educating others, which is a big part of what I do, developing education programs and informing, because if you're informed, then you are more likely to make those sustainable, decisions, because you know that you've thought about it, as opposed to being in the wilderness and not really understanding, how do I make a difference, and then not doing anything at all. So that's can really drive, systemic change across everything. If we integrate all these actions into our daily lives, we can reduce, our own environmental impact, and that contributes collectively, as a human race, and it moves towards a more sustainable and a more equal future.
So people have to be cautious when they travel. For like you gave an example, like whenever they travel, they need to pick the green solution, like you mentioned, the electric vehicle or the public transportation.
Yes, as much as we can. We can't really blame ourselves for the supply chain. I guess that's what I learned at Cambridge, Sustainable Leadership. So, it is up to, the corporations and things and the governments to give us those opportunities. But wherever we can actually make a difference, then, that contributes to the decision making. So it's no longer just top down or one sector influences the other sector. We all influence each other with our decisions.
Yeah. But there is one catch here. Whenever we use the electric vehicle or any public transportation, which run through the electricity we produce today, it's not that much green, right? Indirectly, we are generating the electricity through the fossil fuel. So one way or other, it is not completely sustainable, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that depends. They're trying for that. That's what renewable energy is all about. So it's about keeping the lights on too. So that's where, we live in an imperfect world. Nothing, they can't all of a sudden go completely, renewable, because we wouldn't keep all of our energy going. So they have to maybe use the lesser of two evils, which would be gas, to keep the lights on until the renewables are up, and the grids have to change. AI is using a lot more electricity globally. I'm sure you've read or heard, and that's an added problem. How that is wasteful. As far as our carbon footprint goes. So it's the renewables, getting the renewable side of things, and as electric cars have batteries are wasteful. So, they haven't used to have a circularity about them. So, but it is we just have to do some, anything to reduce instead of not doing anything and having it grow exponentially, is a better option.
Absolutely. What's the biggest mistake people make when it comes to sustainability?
This actually, is something that definitely is what my book, which I have just started, but I will have it done in the next 3 weeks. Sorry, the next 3 weeks. The next 3 months. 3 weeks is a bit challenging. I wish. But the next 3 months. And then, to put it out on Amazon, and I have a publisher and everything, which is really good. So, so this leads on from your last question. One of the biggest mistakes in sustainability that people make is underestimating the impact of our individual act and waiting for our institutions like government and corporations and organizations to show us the way. So this, this kind of mindset, provides us with reason not to do anything or be inactive. And as people feel that their efforts are insignificant, which is justifiable, but that's not the case. Collectively, we can make actions and we can drive significant change. I guess another mistake I would see would be that we focus on short-term gains rather than long-term sustainability. And that's not just individuals. Corporations and organizations do that, and governments do that as well. And that's, prioritizes convenience over the environmental impact. So if we shift our mindset to one that values the long-term benefits, that's crucial for sustainability and for change. And there's often a lack of comprehensive understanding of sustainability. And that's where education comes in, and that's leading to, disjointed efforts. Some people are doing something in one section and that might work, but then where do they go in another section of their lives or their work or their companies? And by focusing, I guess I can give you an example here, and that's, by focusing on recycling without considering the other impactful actions like reducing consumption or using renewable energy,
Yeah.
Then that's not going to be, the ultimate in your sustainable footprint or your carbon footprint in your sustainability efforts. Yeah, so true sustainability requires a holistic approach. And we must consider the environmental, social, and economic factors of any decisions that we make.
Yeah. That's very interesting answer, man.
Yeah, it is.
And on top of that, one of the thing we should concern is the greenwashing, which hindered the progress.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, ma'am, can you explain what greenwashing is and how this greenwashing ruining the sustainability movement?
Yes, definitely. That is something I have always been concerned about. But then there's greenhushing now, which is just as concerning. So yeah, it's not a simple equation. I think to give you context, in recent years, the concerns have been mounting about the detrimental effects of greenwashing and now greenhushing in the sustainability movement. Greenwashing occurs when organizations falsely portray their products, services, or overall operations as environmentally friendly when clearly they're not. They often exaggerate their commitment to sustainability. And this provides a deceptive practice that can undermine, others' genuine efforts, and it erodes public trust. So the public will say, well, no, why do I even bother buying a more, sustainable product when really it's not? It's just as detrimental to the environment. I'll just buy what I normally buy, that could be less expensive. And this, diverts the attention, to the truly impactful, and good organizations that are trying very hard, or businesses or individuals that are trying very hard, to make the changes. And that leads to, sort of greenhushing. So then companies would prefer to downplay or obscure their sustainability practices so they don't, get fined, or governments in that regulation that you were talking about, the regulatory bodies don't, put their brand, at risk of being, I'm trying to look for the word, put their brand at risk being less liked by the community or by
the public perception is like they are doing good for our environment. Yeah,
exactly. Good. Yes. Public perception. It influences their brand's public perception. Exactly. Thank you. And then, so while this might be a cautious approach, it could be equally harmful. The companies then, they also miss out on the opportunity to inspire others and contribute, to the collective progress that sustainability is making.
Yeah.
And it prevents stakeholders, including consumers and investors, from making informed decisions. So these practices, they threaten to derail the momentum of the sustainability movement, which believes in, transparency, authenticity, accountability, and they're crucial because they build resilience and a trustworthy framework so that we can all work within sustainable development, which is, in its infancy, and it's very much a learning curve. So if we're open and honest, if corporations and organizations and governments and individuals are open and honest, highlighting both their successes and their challenges, we can learn from them, and then we can grow with integrity so that we can drive, credible and meaningful change.
Definitely a concerning case. We should cautious about that. Not every green commercial is truly green, which companies claim to be.
Yeah, it's often, you need to do your research. Which I guess that's my job, to do the research and find out, which companies are
expose
or not.
Those companies. Yeah,
exactly. And that's why I'm moving more and more towards the media side of it, so that, and really not, it's not like, oh, this company's doing bad, but just highlighting the ones that are doing good so that people know about the good ones. And not say companies or organizations, as I said, or governments, even countries, it's they do have a climate change or individuals that are really standing out and really, and upholding that. And I think it's on that positive side rather than, the bad ones that are doing this, because, we know more or less, I think it's getting better with that. But, so hopefully, you have to rely on the integrity of each part.
Absolutely. So, ma'am, can we talk about your book, which you are currently writing? By the way, what inspired you to write that book?
A lot of things, but mostly what I'm finding is that I think the disconnect between public, which you just said, public perception, the disconnect between public perception and what sustainability is, even why I'm even on your show, is to take those academic ideas or even those, policy ideas, business ideas. There's a lot of rhetoric. There's a lot of words, and really, make it simple so the public can understand that. So really, sort of, and then, the call to action of just being aware of it, aware of sustainability, what it means in a real way, and how people can help to, do what they do, a lot of ways in which they can actually help in all sections of their lives, to understand sustainability and make a difference in their lives.
Absolutely. So, ma'am, when we can expect your book to be released?
Hoping February at the latest.
So, is there any title you would like to share? Yeah. We are excited about it. Yeah.
I am very excited. Yeah, the title's there, definitely. And I've got 2 book cover designs. No, it's How Not to Kill the Planet.
Not to kill the one. Interesting. You sound intriguing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think, it's going to be good.
Yeah. So, ma'am, we are on the final segment of our podcast where I will ask you some quick question. You will answer it as fast as you can. We call it instant insights.
That sounds great. No, I'm looking forward to it.
So, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, then. Coffee or tea?
Oh, that's hard. I like both. I'm going to say coffee.
Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Beach or mountains?
Oh, that's hard too. Mountains?
City or countryside?
That's really hard. I like both. I will say countryside.
Blue or green?
Green.
Most used app on your phone?
Most used app on my phone. It's what is it? Sorry, I have to have a look. It's a thesaurus. It's Power Thesaurus. There you go.
Thesaurus. Just like a dictionary.
It's synonyms and acronyms. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Instagram. Sorry, I can't have 2.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Best way to start your day?
With yoga.
Interesting. Introvert or extrovert?
Can I be an omnivert? I think they had that at Harvard. The last thing, it's like you can be in between. I would say an introvert, deep down inside.
Yep. Most of us omnivore, but sometimes, there is a call that inside which side we should lean on. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, definitely introvert.
Yep. Most recent hobby that you picked up?
Most recent hobby? Oh, sound baths. Chakra Sound Bath. They are amazing. After our yoga class, the teacher has chakra bells. She plays the chakra bells, and then she does sounds that sound like the universe, if you heard on NASA or things like that, and they go through your head, and it actually affects your physiology. So you lie in your yoga pose or whatever, Shavasana or whatever you want, and they go through. I have never felt better in my life. It's amazing. And I'm not, a airy-fairy person. I like practical reasons things happen. It works. Definitely. So
it is like sound therapy, right?
Yes. I think that definitely, I've heard that's what it's based in. I haven't, they have apps and things like that on Spotify and whatever that have that. But no, this is like at a yoga studio where afterwards, and the chakra bells are amazing, but they actually affect, all the different chakras in your physiology in your system. It's, you have to experience it. And I think it's like, I guess, acupuncture or anything, or Ayurvedic medicine. It's the practitioner. And this particular woman is phenomenal. Classes are packed.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, I can't. Yeah, she should write a book or, do something. In fact, I might inspire her to do that because it's pretty impressive.
One thing that makes you smile instantly?
Oh, just, I have a disabled magpie. She's lost her foot and she comes to get fed. And every time I see her, and she's so giving. She looks after other people's babies. And, birds are pretty smart. Magpies, I don't know if anybody knows. I guess they're birds here. They're black and white. They're really cool looking birds. They're almost, they're very modern. So every time I see her, that makes me smile.
Lovely. What is your go-to stress relief method? I think it's a yoga.
Yeah, journaling, glass of wine.
Meditation.
Glass of wine? No,
glass of wine.
meditation. I like meditation, but yes, no, yoga is definitely a stress relief for me. Yeah.
Best way to spend a weekend?
Oh gosh, with my friends and family.
Yep. Travel back in time or forward in time?
I think forward in time. I want to be a granny in space. I want them to do all, not experiments in a weird way, but just be able to give feedback and them to learn from aging in space. I think that'd be super cool. Yeah.
Yep. Maybe you could write a book about it, ma'am. It's really sounds interesting.
Granny in space, perfect. I love it.
Yeah. Once you wrote your nonfiction book, then why not a fiction one?
Oh, right. Yeah. Fiction. Oh, I see what you're getting at. That's perfect, actually. Thank you. Yeah, no, I really, really want to go into space and be the granny that they sort of an older person that they actually, can learn from, physiology and, what the effects on the body and what you can eat, what you can't eat, how long you live for. Does it shorten your life? Do you gain, do you not age?
Yeah. If you could have any dinner guest, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, I think the Dalai Lama.
Dalai Lama. So you are into Buddhism?
I think the wisdom of Buddhism is really important for the world.
Absolutely.
The teachings of Gandhi, and I think the world needs it right now. On a more serious note, I think those teachings are very important, to learn to live with every being. It's like the Indigenous knowledge that here in Australia, the Aboriginals are teaching, which is coming to the forefront. And it's very important to understand that we all are equal on this planet. The blade of grass is just as important as, our human, our best of our humans. And, we have to treat them with respect. We have to treat everything with respect. And the natural resources on this planet with respect. They haven't had, so they're not going to be there forever. Yeah. And we treat them as if they're infinite when they're not, they're finite. It's about that respect for every living thing that I really take away. And it helps being from a Western society, which I don't feel I have learned those teachings. That would be very helpful. And I respect, people like the Dalai Lama and Gandhi for what they have given to the world. And I think the Western world especially needs that because they tend to worship, money and power a lot more than they should, worship each other, to worship everything around us.
Yep. Absolutely, ma'am. Since we are on the verge of World War III, so his wording is
and the rest
most relevant than ever.
And for me, it's more, the glaciers are melting, and I've seen, different documentaries. I've talked to like the CEO of the Antarctic Science Foundation, and there are glaciers melting that could, raise sea level rises, and we could lose a lot of islands. So, and they don't know how quick this is going to happen. It could be in the next 10 years. They're saying by 2100, and it's really not it's not about our lifetime. For me, it's about everything else that comes after. I get in the conference that I just was at for the UN Global Compact, because I wear another hat as a UN Sustainable Development Director for Australia in New South Wales. And the Indigenous leader that gave the closing keynote, what she said, I'm trying to think of the right phrase, but it's not living in the shade of the tree that I'm concerned about. It's the tree standing after me. And I know I've got that wrong, but it's that sort of philosophy that
I got that gist here. Interesting. So, ma'am, what's the best way to handle success?
It's funny. I think I've had a lot of wins in my life, but I'm not a pessimist, but I always think that I think I'm an overachiever. So I think that I always look at, both sides of it and what I can, how I can improve whatever it is I'm doing. But I think you need to own your successes and be proud of who you are and what you do achieve. Yeah. So I think, to answer your question directly, it's like carrying a level head, and knowing that it's not going to last forever, and to, be proud of it, and then maybe support it in a way to move on with your journey in life, whatever that might be, and sort of be strategic about your wins, because, we all know we have wins and loses, and there's places we're losing and places we're winning. It's just, celebrate success, but, always know that in anything, I guess, we can improve.
Yep. if you feel that you are perfect, then there wouldn't be any growth. So yeah, definitely.
That's good. That's a good way of putting it, Shree. Definitely. Growth is such an important part of our journey, isn't it?
So ma'am, the opposite of that, what is the best way to handle failure?
Cry? No, I'm kidding. Best way to handle failure. That's the other side of the coin. The glass, I always look at it because I have done, journalism with food and wine before COVID. And I always look at the glass
half empty,
refillable. So it's not half empty or half full, it's refillable. Yeah. And so I don't really see failure. I see that, something has not happened the way I've wanted it to, or what should have happened. But I always look at I guess it depends what you're talking about. But, you don't see it as failure, you see it as growth. And then there's another sort of story, a short story, if you like Thomas Edison, he invented the light bulb. Do you know how many times it took him to develop the light bulb?
Yeah.
Have a guess.
Maybe 100 times?
No, 999.
Oh, man.
And he on the 999th one, this came from Tony Robbins, the 900 about what we're talking about, and on the 999th one, he was working with, his fellow person. And the fellow person said, "This is ridiculous. We are never going to invent the light bulb. You've just blown up the whole laboratory." And then Edison turned around to him and he said, "Well, I just learned something. I learned what not to do." And then on the 1000th time, and it was the 1000th time, he invented the light bulb. So I guess the other thing is don't give up. If you really believe in something, with your whole heart, and your insight tells you that this is the way that you should go, find another way around it. If that door didn't open, then look for another door. Or maybe the universe is telling you not to do that, and then find something else.
Very interesting, ma'am. And thanks for sharing that inspiring story from Thomas Edison. Yep. Best gift you have ever received?
Best gift?
Yeah.
Love. It doesn't happen as often as you think. And when you get it, it's priceless.
It's your deep answer, ma'am.
It's true.
One thing you like to learn?
Oh, I like to learn everything. I don't know if you've heard of the Gallup poll, not the Gallup poll, but the Gallup strengths. So learning is one of my strengths. So I like to learn. It's hard. I like to learn everything. I always look at anything I do as a learning opportunity. So maybe the question that you're asking me is something new I'd like to learn, I guess.
Could be anything. Could be anything.
Could be anything. At the moment, I'm at Harvard doing business. So I come from a creative industry. And so business to me is a relatively new phenomena. So I'm really fascinated about business and society because that takes in the things that are important to me. That takes in nature and society and other parts of the whole of our existence and brings that to the corporate world, which really needs help. So I guess I'd like to learn more about helping other people and becoming, less emotional, I guess, on that journey.
That's interesting.
During COVID, a little side note, I didn't have COVID, but for the vaccine, I almost died. So I was in intensive care. And because my heart rate was 140, resting at 90. And so then I did think, what's my purpose? And why is this all happening? We, in Australia, we had the bushfires, COVID, and then we had all the floods. And it was very putting on my I was raised a Catholic because my dad's Italian. But, so it was very biblical, as far as, why is this happening? And it is, and to learn through Cambridge Sustainable Leadership that I started taking during COVID because you couldn't do much else. I learned that it actually was our fault, that we as humans are causing the exponential sort of planet warming. And then you have to engage others, especially the climate people that don't believe that those are the causes, although it's more and more are, but still, as you would know, I don't know about India, but certainly here, we have people that say, oh, no, it's just, cycles and it'll come back again. And so it's, sort of trying to have people understand that. It's great to see that business now is coming on board and everyone is helping each other. And now I think, and that's why I'm writing the book, is so that people, can come forward too and come along on the journey, and then it will help. It will help all the pollution. And I know that a lot of corporations, like pollution and overpopulation and how do we feed everyone. I'm very interested in the food side and the agriculture side of things. How do we do that moving forward in this world? You know, we've been given a beautiful planet, and a lot of scientists, a lot of astronomical scientists say that there probably isn't another planet like ours for millions and millions of years out there. They don't even think there's one in the Milky Way. You know, so we've been given, you know, you've got to think philosophically too, you know, why are we here? Why have we been given this beautiful paradise, and why do we want to ruin it? In 200 years, you know, what we've done has taken, you know, other species millions and millions of years to you know, the mass extinctions I'm sure you're aware of. I'm sure we don't have time for that right now, but and I'm not, you know, up on them, but I know that they took a lot longer than what we've achieved in only 200.
Yep. Like, ma'am, as you told earlier, that lack of awareness the key. So, yep. We need to aware the new generation. Yep.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. They are the key, you know, and motivated and excited. And that's what, you know, that's why it's important, you know, to bring that excitement and not the negativity that surrounds, oh, we can't do anything about it. So, you know, we're just, you know, doomed and the world's going to end. I mean, human race could end the way we're going. So it's better to at least try to make a difference, you know, and see if that works, right?
Absolutely. The conflict between the big nation currently is happening. So it's a matter of time, right? If somebody is nuke some other country, then the domino effect will be start. So no time.
And it's, I mean, I've listened to seminars about the nuclear disarmament, one of our ambassadors there, and that's scary in itself because accidents happen and there's not really a lot of preparedness around that, you know. It's not like they've thought it through. You know, anything without even somebody deliberately doing it. It's more about the accidents that could happen with all the older reactors and things and what they're doing with it. And I guess that brings us on to nuclear renewable energy, which you know they say is I don't know the details. I've not dived into exactly what they use and why they use it and how detrimental they are to our, you know, environment. But any waste is bad. So that's the other side of it. And peace and security.
Absolutely. People are thinking that if you do some nuclear experiment with one part of the world, it will not affect in other part of the world. It is like as if I'm telling that 2 person is sailing on one boat, and if I hold in the other side of the boat, then it wouldn't affect me. So
I completely agree with you, and I don't understand how someone somewhere can think that this is not going to, or don't even care whether it affects. That's the other side of it, that they actually don't care if it affects. I mean, they don't know and they don't care. I think that's the sad part, because they should care about, you know, something that happens in, you know, sort of Russia and doesn't affect I mean, things do now. Look at the global supply chains, look at prices, you know, and the fighting going on does not help anyone anywhere in the world. And then you add on the nuclear that could happen, and that's, you know.
We had a guest in our podcast. Her name is Dr. Mary Trudeau. She always said that one thing I just remember is everything is connected.
Yes.
One action could result to any other reaction. So definitely we have to aware about it. We have to cautious.
I listened to your podcast with her. It was fascinating, and everything is connected. And I've learned that, you know, the title that I hold as a growth director is intrinsically tied to multidisciplinary, you know, that everything is organic and that we all are affected. But I mean, you can look at medicine and Western medicine. I think that, I think India has, you know, that Ayurvedic is, you know, preventative, holistic. And what we need to learn, and what the West is learning, that it's not siloed, that one thing does not affect another. And I think food and medicine is something that I have also worked in, and it is helping dietary problems, you know, such as diabetes, and it also helps heart disease. And it's sort of what you put in your system, and is what your system is organic, and it's not, you know, doesn't take well to chemicals and things like that are in the outside environment. So why would you put, you know, sort of chemicals on your food to kill the insects that we need, you know? And it's now all coming back to those, you know, indigenous, if you like, or hippie, or, you know, those things that everyone's been saying. But then I get big corporations coming back to me and saying, well, how do you expect us to feed all these people? So, you know, you can go around in circles with those conversations, but there needs to be action, because I find there's a lot of talk and not a lot of action. So they, you know, especially the food industry, that after the renewables, I think that agriculture is going to be the next thing that we desperately need to address to feed people. With all the climate change problems, there's going to be a lot of catastrophes that people can't be fed. And then more wars will start because, you know, people are hungry. And it could be a cascading, series of events if that's not addressed in a real way, as well as soil being healthy, you know, so we haven't depleted all the nutrients in the soils and get desertification.
Yep. As you told that the food which we producing, which have the chemicals, which is not so good for our health. So it is like we are making the small hole into that boat and ignoring that it's just a tiny hole. What impact it will be into the whole boat. So
yes. Yeah. And that's why, I guess, coming back to the podcast we're on, that's why we need sustainability, because that covers that as well. You know, it's how food waste and why there are people starving on the planet. That's another perplexing problem we have made as humans, that there's all this waste and farmers are tilling back, you know, the food that they can't sell because of our GDP values, where you could take that and you could ship it to somewhere where people are starving and they would appreciate it, and it's good, wholesome vegetables. You know, it just blows my brain. I just don't understand why why do we have to be so greedy? Why do we have to think that it's worth some, you know, it has to be bought or can just be thrown away. I don't understand that.
Again, which comes to your point, because the lack of awareness, nobody is seeing the bigger picture. So
so it's about more grateful, benevolent, and more equal societies.
Yep. So, ma'am, moving on.
Yes.
What's your favorite book?
Alice in Wonderland.
Favorite movie? Is the same, the Johnny Depp one.
Oh, no, that was good though. My favorite movie would be Where the Green Ants Dream by Werner Herzog. Yes, I was a film buff at one stage. Well, not buff, but very into independent filmmaking in the 80s and 90s. Well, mostly in the late 80s, I should say, because I was a bit young in the early 80s. But so we would just watch all kinds of really cool films. He's a German film director, Werner Herzog. And he did Where the Green Ants Dream. And that is a true story based in Australia. And there was Aboriginals living on a site in Western Australia where the mining companies were coming in to tear down all the wildlife and habitat and moving the Aboriginals out of their villages. And the Aboriginals had to sit in, so they sat down. The mining companies made a airplane strip out on the dirt road, or on a big dirt, I don't know what you call it, landing strip. That's it, a big dirt land strip, and all the Aboriginals sat there, and so that the planes couldn't land. And when they asked them why they were sitting there, they said, you can't dig here. This is where the green ants dream.
Interesting.
Because they believe, that everything is interconnected, and that that ants have a right to be here as much as we do, and we need to respect them. It's a brilliant film, and it's beautifully shot.
I will check it out, and thanks for sharing that.
That's okay.
So, ma'am, if you weren't doing what you are currently doing, what would it be doing instead?
What I would be doing? I'd be a filmmaker.
Interesting, ma'am.
Speaking of films, I would make films. Just showcasing, I do like the nonfiction world, so just really bringing things to the forefront and being able to show, to develop that and show visually whatever I would be thinking of at the time. That would be
interesting.
It's the finance side that's a bit hard, because you need, I guess you don't for a small film. So you never know. Watch this space. I hope so. Because I'd love to be a filmmaker. Just
like you, I also wanted to be a filmmaker. So I'm also currently writing my first fiction book.
Are you? What's that about?
It is the title of the book is E-Soul. It is like electronic soul. So by the title, you must have guessed the premise of the story.
No, tell me.
It is basically like having the digital soul.
Oh.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. And that's fiction.
It's a fiction book. Yep.
That'd be fascinating. I really like, I mean, it's very topical. I mean, look at AI. They're saying we had a whole panel this last few days on AI, and we were speaking exactly to that on how far that could go to become just a total human being and much smarter than a human being.
Yep.
So, and that they possibly could have emotion. And then there's the dark side of it, because one of the girls on the panel was very much against it, and she used a lot of swear words. But she was, because she was worried about children. And then in America, they've had their first actual AI death. And a 13-year-old boy fell in love with the Lord of the Rings. I can't remember. Yeah. I'm sure you've heard about this.
It's the Game of Thrones character.
Yes. Yeah, and then he said, and then it was a very sad story. And then so I don't know. I was thinking we could have another podcast on AI sustainability. I'd love to hear one that you could do, because it is a new frontier, and there's a lot for me. I use Grammarly. I love a lot of the things that it does for me. So I guess what came out of it was that if you use it as a tool, there needs to be regulation, like sustainability. There needs to be regulatory sort of guardrails. Yep. Surrounding it, but that it is, a very useful tool. What do you think?
Yeah, man, absolutely. That is a very useful tool. Especially people are talking about the AI after the 2022 when OpenAI released its ChatGPT. Suddenly everybody's lose their mind and talking about it, because the tool is very good. So yeah, that of course it is that. But as you told, people are not seeing that the sustainability part of the AI. I mean, how much energy it draws once. One line of prompt which you are getting from the ChatGPT in the backend, it is responsible for many power. So yeah, absolutely. People are not aware of this thing, but I'm glad that those companies are continuously making it better and better. So earlier when 2022, the amount of energy it drawn, it has been reduced today. So yeah, must be an improvement. And I also heard that they are also using the, nuclear energy to power those data center, that AI data center. So eventually
that's what they're moving towards. Definitely. Yeah. I think definitely Bill Gates and Microsoft, are trying to do that. But is that going to work? Is that enough? And how much more do we need? I think someone else on the panel said, it was a fascinating panel, that, they are solving, I don't know the exact details. I'm trying to remember them, but let's say one problem is solved within the AI structure in the logarithms. So then that takes less energy, but then that creates a new problem that takes more energy. So whenever they make sort of milestones into their energy usage, and when they make their energy usage more sustainable, then another question comes up that uses more energy. So they're not gaining much ground with helping the sustainability of the electrical usage. And if we're going to change electrically across sectors, from energy, transportation, sort of AI, or, any digital sort of electricity that we use, which we're as a globe using exponentially so much more electricity. Where's that coming from? And that's what governments and corporations are trying to sort out at the moment. So we just keep using more. So electricity is a good question of how, and we're going to get more of that in a renewable way. Without using fossil fuels.
Without using the fossil fuel. But as you told earlier, with the nuclear energy also, we say that is a completely green, but what about those waste which coming out of the nuclear? So
the uranium, which is not
the uranium,
another webinar. I listen to a lot of things. I do a lot of research. There is a nuclear waste site in Oregon, in a beautiful, pristine part of Oregon. It's 20 years old. It was only supposed to last 20 years. When they put it there, they said they were going to move it by then. They haven't moved it, and now it's seeped into the river system, and it's killing everything in its way. And America's good at hushing things, unfortunately. So, I don't know, at least in Australia, I haven't heard about this. This was a webinar that came out of the United States. But, it's not, those sort of things should be, of global interest, because then we can learn what not to do with the way, and inform the public, inform us. And we make the decisions that, we're the ones it's going to harm, the river systems, what we drink, what we eat, it all affects us, and then we get sick, because they haven't done their due diligence. It's really not fair. It's not fair to communities.
Yep. Talking about a nuclear waste, one propaganda, actually lack of better word, I'm using it. One propaganda post I saw recently is that post is claiming that what people thinking is the nuclear waste is this much, but what actually is this much. So the tiny bit. So this is, I don't know who made it, but maybe this is a deliberate attempt to brainwash people that, that nuclear energy waste is not that much, which you are thinking is.
Well, I mean, exactly. I guess we call it nuclear washing.
Yeah.
New term, nuclear washing.
Yeah, nuclear washing.
It's like, I mean, as I said, I like to be informed to make comments, but, you just think through, I mean, uranium, you only need how much to make a nuclear bomb, So it may be a little bit of waste, but what does that mean to the environment if it seeps into the environment? I'd like to, you like to get some questions answered before I make a decision on whether I want it in my backyard.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They sort of ask us, to make decisions without giving us much information on the decision making itself.
Yeah. So, ma'am, talking about the sustainability and decision making, what do you think? What country do you want to visit for sustainability insights?
I'd love to visit Denmark and Norway. They are the forefront of change in sustainability for countries.
So, ma'am, if you could solve one environmental issue overnight, what would it be?
Climate change, because that's the root cause of everything that's happening. As far as interconnectedness of planetary systems. So the warming of the planet is causing the oceans to warm. It's causing biodiversity to die. It's a exponential threat to us as a human race. So and they're all tied together. So they're not separate. Like that's for me. That's the biggest problem, and not just for me. I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
I'm sure it is for everyone.
For the humanity. Yeah.
Yes, for humanity.
Yeah. The favorite project that you have worked on.
Sorry, I'm thinking.
Please take your
God,
time.
that's not off the top of my head. I've worked on a real variety of things in my careers. Well, I think it's when I was a wardrobe stylist and costume designer and art director. I set up Foxtel, which is like our internet here, not our internet, our cable television sort of network here. And I got to dress 11 presenters. That's probably one of my favorite projects because it was across everything. When I sort of think about it, that was really interesting. That I think that taught me how to work with a lot of different people and a lot of different attitudes and a lot of different personalities, and try to come to the best idea of how they wanted to see themselves and represent themselves on screen. So that was super fun. And sustainability, my favorite project would probably be in the food sector because I do have master's in gastronomical tourism and a AOS in Le Cordon Bleu culinary arts. So I really have been on that journey before I started this. That was in the 2010s till like now. And so I would say that it was actually doing a paper on food waste, not food waste, on fast food. And is it good for you? And that was fascinating because that really sort of put into perspective, places like Whole Foods and things. And can we do fast food, which is like super like important to some people, but yet make it completely organic and sustainable and healthy, and good for your body, because I think healthy in that respect, make it a very interesting, fun, dynamic way to eat, but yet not be bad for you and not have all those additives and chemicals put into it that are actually incredibly bad for human health. That was a really interesting project.
Interesting. So, ma'am, who is the most influential person in your industry for you?
Paul Pollan. He was the CEO of Unilever. He wrote Net Positive, the book, and he actually is case studies both at Cambridge and Harvard in sustainable leadership, because he's the first person to actually bring that to business and to understand that your bottom line doesn't need to rely on it. He had so much pushback, and just someone who, like as you said, failure, how you believe in yourself, how you push your agendas forward because you know that this is the right way to go, and finally did achieve it and did it in a very productive way, working in communities and global supply chains. So very important person. And also Christiana Figueres. I guess that's a tie. Christiana wrote the Paris Agreement, or helped to. She was with the UN at the time, and really changed the landscape of the SDGs and how we use those as a benchmark to understand who we are and what we want and how we get there as a global community.
Interesting. So, ma'am, what is the most rewarding part of your job?
Helping people become healthier and happier and more equal. I really valued the UN missions, of equality and opportunity for all. They're really important, especially today.
Yeah. And what is the most challenging part of your job?
Trying to bring everyone together on the same page without their own ideas of what they want. I guess the most challenging thing is selfish people. I hate to say selfish, but people that have their own agendas, I guess to say it in a more professional way, people that have their own agendas and only care about those personal agendas, not the agendas of the whole.
So, ma'am, one last question.
Mm-hmm.
What is the best piece of advice that you have ever received?
Oh, I think it was probably from my dad. And he said, Paula, you need to learn to be more patient.
The patience is the key.
Yes, exactly. Because being an activist, vigilante sort of person, it's like, no, we need to do that. We need to do that now.
Yeah.
So, and we do. And I guess, I guess I did write a call to action for you, and I guess it would be, do whatever you can, however you can, with whomever you can, in all phases of your life. We do not have time to wait.
Yeah. Time is running out.
It is.
Yeah. So, ma'am, that's the end of the podcast.
Right. Well, thank you for having me. It's been lovely to be here. I love India. I love your culture. I love your diversity. And I love your nature.
Yep.
And
thank you, man.
If you need anything else, or you'd like to deep dive into anything else, I am happy to come back on. Or if you want me to advise you on any other people and any other aspects of sustainability, I'd love to chat further on that too. So thank you so much, Shree. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. If you are on YouTube, please subscribe to She's podcast, The Billion Insights. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please take a moment to rate us 5 stars if you enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving your time and sharing your incredible insights with us today. Your perspective on sustainable development and the strategy which you have discussed is truly given us a lot to think about. We look forward to your book, and we wish you all the best for you as you continue your important work in sustainability.
Thank you, She. Thank you for having me.
And to our listener, to know more about Paula Rose Castronova, the links can be found in the description. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Billion Insight podcast. Until then, stay curious and remember to take care of our planet. This is Shree, your host, signing out. Peace.